Welcome to another episode of Your Story, My Story. I'm your host, Bree, and today's guest is Emily McHugh. Emily was kind enough to host the very first episode so you could get to know who I am, and I'm very thankful, Emily, that you are here as the very first guest. Very excited. Well, first and foremost, I have to ask you, who is Emily McHugh?
Is that a question?
Yes.
Well, first of all, Emily McHugh is my name. Okay, I guess we'll start with that. And as far as by way of background,
Yes.
I was born in Cambridge, England. Grew up in Jamaica, Lloydesville, Jamaica, and St. Catherine, and also East Orange, New Jersey.
Okay.
That's kind of a background thing, but as far as who I am, first of all, I am a child of God. That's who I am. And it's a big question because it kind of like, what do you truly say? But you're just who you are. I don't know, it kind of defies definition. You need to ask more questions.
Okay.
We'll figure it out as we go. We'll end, by the time we end, we'll know who I am.
Okay.
The plan.
Okay. Okay, I'd like to ask you, what role did your parents and your grandparents play in your upbringing?
Okay, well, they played every role, really. Starting with my grandparents, I never knew my grandparents, first and foremost. So the influence that they would have had was preceding me through my parents and through what my parents have told me about them. That's how I know of them, and trying to kind of piece together who they were.
Okay.
We have family photos of all of the grandparents except my mother's mother, my maternal grandmother. So I
Okay.
have really no idea really how she looked, and it's always creating this imagination. But all the other grandparents, we have pictures. And just learning about their character and their personality, you can see the influence, how it comes down through the generations.
Okay.
And specifically when it comes to my parents, they laid the foundation.
Okay.
They sacrificed a lot for their children. Both my parents are from Jamaica, and they emigrated from there to England, lived there many years, and what it took to go, and they were a part of the first wave of immigrants from Jamaica in the mid-50s to England, and what that meant to them and all of that. So they taught us tenacity, that even though there are obstacles, there's no obstacle that you don't strive to overcome.
Okay.
And that certainly came from the grandparents too, because they're coming from an era where you have to create your own work.
Yes.
You don't go and say apply for a job.
Right.
You have to create your own, either have a trade or create your own path in life. So it's a certain amount of resilience
Yes.
and ingenuity as well. And when I look back and think of what my parents did and what my grandparents did, it totally has influenced what their grandchildren have done and what I have done.
Right.
So it's a continuum, if you will. Like my mother's father, he was a tanner.
Okay.
So he did with leather. I had an uncle who was a shoemaker. My
Yes.
aunts were seamstresses and things like that. So all of these things kind of influenced us. And on my father's side, his father was a pilot and would bring ships into the Jamaican harbors and merchandise from around the world. So he was a part of trade, and all of these things have influenced our lives and what we've ended up doing.
Okay. What is the most important thing to you as a person?
I think it's very important to fulfill your potential.
Yes.
I'm very passionate about that, and it is indeed a lifelong endeavor to fulfill what you're here to do.
Okay.
But I ask God, guide me what you put me here to do,
Yes.
and then help me to fulfill it. You provide the resources, provide the energy, provide the wherewithal to make it come together. And so that to me is I think my highest calling is to fulfill whatever potential I have.
Okay. You know, something that I admire about you is your intellect and your confidence. And that is an area where I see a lot of young girls struggling today. What advice would you give to them?
In terms of being more confident?
In terms of being more confident and not being afraid, because there's something about women who are strong and intelligent it's very intimidating to a lot of people. That's just my perception. What would you say to the young girls about helping them to become confident and embracing their intelligence and not being afraid to own it?
Okay, well, when it comes to confidence, it's something, many times people look to other people
Yes.
for affirmation or to give them confidence.
Yes.
And confidence wholly comes from within. Now, we can be encouraged, clearly.
Yes.
We can be motivated and inspired, and all those things are important. They play a role. But ultimately, the individual has to make the decision that I have something to offer which will enrich someone else's life.
Yes.
Therefore, it is incumbent upon me to bring that forth. And that is not conceit, it is not, and there's a distinction between
Right.
confidence and conceit, and many times we're so caught up trying not to be conceited
Yes.
that we lose self-esteem and we lose confidence.
Yes.
So, being confident, you can be humble and confident.
Right.
So it is not at all opposite. That you need to combine that, the humility that we're always learning, we're always improving, we
Yes.
can always be better. But where I am today, I have something to impart. So I'm going to impart that as best I can because it can help you. And therefore you will have something to impart that will make me better.
Yes.
It's definitely an interchange. So I would encourage young people to stop looking for approval all the time and
Very
doubting their basic, because they're young, they feel they maybe have less to offer, which is totally not true. Any age of your life, you have something valuable to offer. You don't have to wait till you're old or older before you can add value to people. So at any age and every stage of life, there's value to add.
That's I really appreciate you sharing that. You know, a few months back, you did a sermon at church, and something that stays with me was when your sister did the introduction of speaker. The pride on her face. She was so proud, you know, as she introduced you, and I looked to her as she spoke about it, and her face just lit up. Tell me about the relationship with you and your sister, like even with your mom. I observed you guys in church, and your strength. I just get the feeling like some of that may come from your mother, you know,
Yes.
but also with you and your sister, I can just see the genuine relationship that you guys have. So tell me about that.
Okay, that's another big one there. My sister, and as she mentioned my sister Helena, she mentioned in her introduction that the relationship between a sibling is the longest one you'll ever
Yes.
have. And indeed it's true, because we've known each other forever, since inception, you know.
Right.
When I showed up, she's 2 years older. I have to reiterate the fact that she is older, okay? I may be taller and she's shorter, but there was a time when she was taller, but that didn't last too long, and then we
Okay.
switched places. But anyway, but we grow up, we have a respect for each other because we have the same value system.
Yes.
We're very different people, different tastes in music, everything.
Yeah.
But the same values, and that's what unifies us. Also, of course, our history,
Yes.
our family history, and having these shared experiences. And I feel like we have, all my siblings, we've been, my 2 brothers and my sister and I, 4 of us, we've all been nurtured in our respective areas of strength,
Yes.
and we respect what we're all good at. So she's very good at what she does. I'm not even going to come close to the things that Helena can do. She can knit a sweater 10,000 different ways, and the more complicated the design, the better. That's her kind. Me, I have no patience for that.
Right.
So I admire that, and then she might admire other things that I do that she doesn't care to do. So that's also a foundational thing, just respecting each other, and acknowledging that we are unique, but we're also so similar.
Yes.
Which is kind of unusual to think that, but that's how it is, I think, for most siblings. But I admire her too, because she is very independent-minded, and she's not afraid to speak up for what she believes and so on, and she does not tolerate much nonsense. And But we were brought up that way, complimentary.
Yes.
Yes. And as far as my mom, you're saying the strength, well, my mother has been through a tremendous amount through her life, and to observe her resilience and to observe her going back to school like 3 times in her life
Okay.
as an adult, and determined to finish what she started. And so that kind of, that example
Yes.
definitely is going to influence any child who sees that play
Most
out.
definitely.
So, and my mother's very humble, she's quiet but graceful and believes in being in the background,
Yes.
but it comes through her character. So I'm very thankful. I'm thankful for my parents, my father, my mother, and my sister or my siblings for the influence that they've had on me.
One day when we were talking, Emily, you were giving me some encouragement about my devotional that I've written, and you mentioned about your book. Tell us about your book and why did you decide to write one?
Okay, well, I've written a book based on my experiences as an entrepreneur
Okay.
and bringing into play all the different experiences throughout my life, because we were talking about my background and so forth a little while before. All of those things come to bear when you start a business.
Yes.
And we've made so many mistakes that I'm like, we better put it down in some kind of a book so that other people can learn from it, or at least gain some insights
Yes.
as to things they could avoid or things they may want to consider doing if they're also starting a business. So the book is called The Little Girl's Guide to Entrepreneurship.
I like that.
And it's not just for little girls, by the way, but I have to read the book to know more about it. But the idea, it's for anybody, but it's specifically called that because it's my niece, when she was little, she was about 10 years old, she asked me, am I too young to start a business? And I'm like, no, you're not. As long as you have an idea and you have a concept in mind, you can start
Yes.
a business. So that was the motivation to speak to that little girl who has that same question. And as you grow up in life, you have some of the similar questions. So that was where the book came from.
Okay. Now, if for those who would like to purchase your book, how can they go about that?
Well, it will be available soon,
Okay.
and we will announce it on my website, kasori.com, which I'll share more.
Okay.
But we'll have it when it's
And I will
available.
definitely pass on that information too.
Thank you.
I will definitely do that. I'm looking forward to reading it.
Okay, excellent.
Definitely. And I also know that you have a line of bags. Tell us about your line, Kasori.
Well, my company, Kasori, it started as a class project when I was in business school.
Okay.
And I started the business with my sister. And what happened was, when I was at business school in New York, we all had to have laptops at the time, and we had the ugliest laptop bags ever. And I couldn't stand my bag. So Helena was going to FIT, Fashion Institute of Technology,
Okay.
and I asked her to make me a bag. And she designed a bag for me, and people started to ask me, where did you get your bag? And there was so much interest in it. So my last semester of B school, I took a class on entrepreneurship.
Okay.
And I decided I had to do a business plan for a real business concept. So that was it. It was designing stylish laptop bags for women. And that's where the idea came from, and that's where it started. So the company is called Kasori, and it is have a whole story behind the name where that came from, which we
Okay.
tell on our website.
Okay.
But the whole idea is that we would change and evolve over time. So we start off with the bags. Let me show you some of these bags.
Please show us the bags.
This is one of our vintage Kasori bags, pink bags. This used to be one of our top selling bags,
Okay.
pink. Because at the time it was all about black.
Right.
So then people were happy to see
And they have
pink.
different color, right?
So we have different colors, and we kind of expanded it into business card cases and things of that sort, and other colors and stripes and so forth. So we have a variety of different products for laptops and just travel bags and
Okay.
travel
They are
tips.
absolutely beautiful, and I do love your color combinations.
Oh, well, thank you.
Very nice, very nice. So, if someone is interested in ordering your bags, they go to Kasori.
Kasori.com, and it's C as in cat, A-S as in Sam, A-U-R-I.com, Kasori.com.
Okay. Now, I would like to ask you, how long have you been doing this business with the bags?
Ooh, it's been a long time. We actually began when I was in school in 1999.
Okay.
And we actually started, say, selling in the early 2000s.
Okay.
And one of the, it took the whole process, we started it from scratch, not really knowing anything about the bag business, but
Okay.
little by little we learned and eventually got connected with a manufacturer in China and in New York, and so one thing led to the next. But we bootstrapped it, and our first, I guess, official breakthrough we became the first laptop bag sold at the Museum of Modern Art in New York at the
Impressive.
MoMA Design Store. And that helped to kind of move us along, and
Okay.
from there we also sold on Apple for many years as well, on Apple website. And so there you have it.
Wow. Well, I can personally tell you that I like the bags, and in fact, I'm looking at one that I would like to purchase that caught my eye right away. I can show you
Which
my
one
favorite.
is that?
This
Oh.
one. For some reason,
Great.
I looked on your line, and
Uh-huh.
I just love the color combination. Very nice, and it's very different.
Yes.
And that's what I like, because like you mentioned earlier, the typical black case, that's what you see all the time.
Yes.
And I think this is I'm a girly girl. And I think this is very beautiful. So I'm hoping that you guys will go to the website. Very nice, Emily, very nice.
Thank you.
Very nice. Well, you're also a musician. That's what I like about this lady. In fact, that's how I got to know you, when you would come to church and you would play the violin. How long have you been playing?
Since I was 7 years old.
Wow.
And don't ask me how old I am, but I'm ways from 7. Oh, many decades now.
No, what I was about to ask you was, what does being a violinist mean to you?
Oh, that means everything to me. I can't even imagine my life without the violin, because it's been such an integral part of my existence. And when I first, I flash back to when I first started to play.
Yes.
When I first heard a violin, first concert I went to, and I saw a violin, and it's like, however that sound is made, I want to be able to learn how to make that sound. And it taught me everything was a long story, but how I got my violin and all the people involved, my mother, friends, family, everybody, how they got the violin to me, and my persistence in wanting it, and anyway,
Yes.
It came together. And I remember when I started my lessons, it was taking something very seriously.
Yes.
So here I am at 7 years old, and was very serious about this instrument, very serious about music, and it kind of set my life up at that age to be focused on something that I
Yes.
knew I wanted to achieve. And even though I knew it would take a while before I'd sound like what I heard in the orchestra, and I had to
Yes.
endure listening to myself for a long time, making
Yes.
awful sounds that I couldn't stand, but it's like one day it will sound better. And finally it did sound better. And it took a few years before I could even say, it's starting to sound like something.
Yeah.
But it really has played a major part of my life, and I know that the power of music, what it did to
Yes.
me, and what it
Yes.
does for other people. And you never fully know exactly what it does to other people.
Right.
You have an idea, but only the individual knows deep down inside. So the people who I heard play all those years ago, they have no idea that I now decided to play because I heard them.
Wow.
So maybe today if I play, I don't know who out there may decide to learn or
Right.
to go and do something. So I really thank God for music
Yes.
and for being able to express that way through music.
When you talked about your earlier years playing, I was just thinking, I can't imagine Emily playing a bad note on the violin, because you're so good. I've heard you
You're
so
so
many
kind.
times. No, honestly, Emily, I love classical music, and I do appreciate the violin. And I just enjoy your playing very much. And you are in for a treat. She will be playing in a little while, and I'm telling you, you will definitely be thanking me for that.
I better not mess up now.
No, it will be fantastic. It will be fantastic. But no, Emily, what role do you think, because if you notice in more and more schools, the arts are not a part of the curriculum anymore. What's your opinion on that? Because the arts are really, when I was growing up, I just remember, look, I'm not a very good singer, I'm not a musician, but I do have an appreciation for music.
Yes.
And I feel that it plays a role in a child's life.
Oh, yes.
What do you have to say about what's happening today with the arts being taken away from most curriculums?
Well, it's tantamount to taking away reading. It's
Yes.
tantamount to taking away spelling. I mean, you might as well just take away everything.
I agree.
Because it's not expendable.
Right.
And so many times people see it as though it's something extra. It's not something extra. It is the core.
Exactly.
Whatever speaks to your soul is the core of your being. And I know there's a lot of emphasis on STEM and science, technology, engineering, and math. And now they're trying to call it STEAM, where they're adding the
Right.
arts, which is how it really should be all along
Exactly.
anyway. It's a holistic approach to education and
Yes.
learning. So the arts, it's a way of speaking to the soul.
Yes.
And if you don't have a refined soul, you can't have a refined life, and you can't have a refined way of thinking.
Exactly.
So it permeates your entire life focus and vision and how you behave in the world.
I agree with you. In Jamaica, we both have Jamaican parents, and something that really fascinated me about Jamaica was the cultural arts festivals that they have every year.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you're poor or if you're rich, but you are exposed
Yes.
to the arts from a
True.
young age.
Right.
And I think it just does something for the building of self-esteem. And I think it just does so much, being focused on a goal, learning the arts, and honing your craft. I think it does so much. So I can admire the time and effort you put into the violin and all the other things that you've done in your life. And I am hoping that there's a little girl out there today that may watch this and be inspired by your story. And that is what, Emily, what I like about you, you're a businesswoman, but you're also a musician. It's like you're not a one-dimensional person. And I'm definitely impressed with that, because in this day and age, it's just sad to see what's happening with women. I think women are afraid to pursue their dreams in many cases. Women are afraid to speak their mind, and that's something I know you're definitely not afraid to speak your mind. What I want to get across to the audience is that there are times that you may not realize that people are paying attention to you and they admire you as a person. I've admired you since I've met you at church, you playing the violin and all the things that you do. And I'm glad that we actually became friends, because the wonderful thing about becoming friends with you is that I found out how generous and kind a person you are. You're very confident, you're very talented, but you want to see other people shine too. You don't want to shine just yourself, you want to see other people shine. And I have to really commend you for that, because very often, women are not very kind to each other. It's the truth. We don't do enough of that uplifting of each other,
Yes.
So I definitely had to bring that up, that I definitely appreciate your talent, but even as a human being, you've just been, and I've heard so many other people in the church say it too, that they just admire your talents and all of that. So I just had to share that
Well,
with you.
thank
You're
you.
looking shocked, like
know.
really, but no, honestly, Emily, I just had to share that with you. And I just wanted to ask you to define happiness, and what does it mean to you?
Well, going back to what I mentioned earlier about fulfillment, I think happiness is fulfillment.
Yes.
Meaning that you get to do what you love to do, and you're able to spend your time making a contribution, whatever it may be. And so happiness, I think you're not happy if you're not doing something you enjoy.
Yes.
And you're happy when you're with people you like, as happiness goes and comes.
Yes.
But you have to have a state of mind that to make the distinction between joy and happiness. That joy can endure, you can experience joy even though maybe you're having difficult times,
Yes.
which don't make you happy. But true happiness really is just knowing that you're doing the best you can, and asking God to guide you how to use your time.
Yes.
And it can be frustrating because we
Yes,
don't always know the
definitely,
answer. And we're saying,
definitely.
oh, I would like to be doing this, but maybe that's not what you're meant to do right now.
Mm-hmm.
Can you still be happy? So it's a bit of a question that's a bit complicated, but
Yes.
using I think it comes together. It becomes aligned, your interest with your purpose.
Okay. Now, before we close, I would just like, you stand for something. You really do. When you did your sermon at church, and you spoke about like the women like who were not married, but it was so beautiful how you talked about your standards for yourself. Basically, you talked about your standards and that you were not willing to compromise. Would you go into a little bit about that? Because there are so many women today they're not married. Mm-hmm. There's a level of desperation there, and they sell themselves short. They feel that they have to compromise their values just to have the love of a man. Mm-hmm. Please share with and encourage the sisters out there.
Okay. Well, the scripture passage that I always try to reflect on is, "Eye hath not seen, nor ear heard, what God hath in store for those who love and serve him." And he says he will withhold no good thing from those who walk in his way. No good thing will he withhold.
Yes.
So if my God has promised me that, why should I allow myself to think any other way?
Yes.
And many times we limit ourselves because we look at the world, of what the world is doing, what
Yes.
other people are doing, and what the perceptions are.
Yes.
And we shape our lives based off that. And none of those people put us on this earth.
That's true.
None of those people wake us up every morning, so they cannot influence that. They should not have that level of influence.
Yes.
And so we spend our lives having to keep in perspective who we are and who put us here.
Exactly.
And there's that battle. So I feel many women, they're under certain pressure in our society to conform to certain norms of how they should behave, and then
Yes.
they're influenced by maybe the media or what have you, and that distorts people's self-value. You talk about confidence. People's confidence is shattered because they're pegging it against the wrong benchmark.
Yes.
And so the standard that God set, that he tells us in his word, and I was sharing the story about David and Bathsheba and all of this, and that Bathsheba was not an object. She was a woman, she was a wife, she was a daughter, she was a human being.
Yes.
And that women should have respect for themselves.
Definitely.
And not just allow any person, man or whoever, to come along and define who they are.
Exactly.
And dictate how they should see themselves. So it's seeing yourself as a child of God, here for a purpose, here to fulfill a mission, and you cannot allow distractions, be
Yes.
it men or whomever,
Yes.
to take you away from what you're here to do.
Yes.
And also realizing that if the right man who God wants in your life, he'll put there. And that person will follow the rules.
Yes.
Okay? If they love you, they'll commit to you, they'll marry you, and then they'll start a family. And not do it the other way around. And that was one of my points.
Exactly. Exactly. No, that was, as I listened to your sermon, I was thinking, I wish that other women had the opportunity to hear what you had to say, because it's so true. We are only too willing to compromise very often. And even a woman with, I've seen women with great careers, intellect and all of that, but at the end of the day, self-esteem is still not there.
Yes. Yes.
The self-esteem is still not there, and we're only too willing to lower our standards. So I just appreciate the fact that you are not afraid to embrace who you are and you stand for something, you know, what you stand for, it's loud and clear. You make no apology for being who you are.
No, and I'll tell you something. I learned early on, when I was actually maybe around, I don't know, 10, 11, when you're trying to fit in school and you're trying to
Yes.
find your little group, I learned early that I would never fit into any group.
Yes.
So the sooner that reality came into my mind, I'm like, okay, now I can relax and be myself.
Exactly.
And that has helped me tremendously.
Yes.
So I have tried to not that you want to never have any kind of alignment in this world, but there's a difference between getting along with people and just feeling like you can never be you.
Right.
And it's very liberating to embrace the uniqueness that we all have.
Yes.
And that's what I admire about other people. And you talk about lifting other people up and things. I feel that our world, and this may sound, oh, that sounds so idyllic, but that's not the point. When everybody does well in their lives, everybody else does better.
True.
So I do not benefit by you not doing well.
True.
It just doesn't work.
It's true.
And so if I were looking out for my self-interest, I'm like, let me help you as much as I can because it's going to help me. Ultimately, it's going to help everybody else.
Yes.
But that's not the position of, I just help you because it's going to help me. It's everybody is helped
Definitely.
at some level or another.
So that saying, to thine own self be true.
Very much.
Very.
Very much. And I always think, too, that you're going to shortchange the world
Yes.
if you don't bring to the fore what you have to offer. Someone's life will not be enriched.
True.
Because you didn't do what you're doing. And similarly, maybe your life will not be enriched because someone else didn't do what they should have done.
Exactly. So that we learn that we are our brother's keeper.
Mm-hmm.
We, true to who we are. And, I just keep saying it over and over. Because I don't think you realize that, like, sometimes we don't think that people are paying attention to who we are and our character.
Mm-hmm.
And your character shines through. I mean, your parents have done a fantastic job. I mean, I see your parents at church, and I think it's a blessing because very often today there are a lot of disappointed parents today.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of disappointed parents. And I can truly say that you have done your parents proud. And I would like you to share before you play the violin. There was something that you shared about, I think it was a grandfather that you were talking about going to play your violin, and that it was something about carrying everyone.
Oh,
You know what story I'm
Yes.
talking about. I would love for you to share that.
okay. I had attended a seminar where Maya Angelou, the writer, spoke a few years ago, actually it was in 2006. And she mentioned that when she goes on stage and she makes her presentations, she thinks of her entire family. And she
Yes.
carries them all on stage with her parents, her uncles, all these people, that they are a part of what she's bringing.
Yes.
And when she said that, I had the visual of her with a full stage, even though she was there by herself. All these people that she mentioned were with her. And that kind of transformed how I saw myself in terms of when I present myself under any circumstance, that it's not just me. You're
Yes.
representing your parents,
That's so
your
beautiful.
siblings, your grandparents who, as I said, I didn't know, but you're continuing the legacy.
Yes.
Their existence made me possible. So you're representing all of that. And also it gives me a certain sense of responsibility.
Yes.
I dare not let them down.
Yes.
I dare not let all the hard work, all the toil and labor. I had a grandfather, he went to Cuba 5 times. He went to the Panama Canal, I don't know how many times, to work and help build the Panama Canal. This is back in the 20s
Yes.
and back then. And all that blood and sweat and tears that these people did to make a difference for the
Yes.
next generation.
Yes.
So I take that mandate seriously
Yes.
as a responsibility and an honor, really, to carry forward and do the best. And you mentioned about my parents being proud. My parents would not use that word,
Okay.
especially my mom.
Okay.
She
What
always-
word would she use?
She will say pleased,
Okay.
but she tries to avoid saying
Proud.
I'm proud of you.
Yes.
She will never say I'm proud of you.
Right.
Because she doesn't want the idea of pride
Right. I
to get in
understand.
there. But I understand what you're saying, of course. But and because of that mindset, that's how they kept us in check.
Yes.
That we don't go floating off anywhere, and keep us humble, because that is, otherwise there's no point.
Right.
You do best what you can, and that's it. Because we're all moving through with this journey here.
Yes.
And because we're not permanent,
Mhm.
it's incumbent again upon us. What are you leaving behind?
That's true. That is so true. I just appreciated you sharing that. You're taking everyone on the stage with you. To me, it shows the reverence that you have for your ancestors. I think that's missing today. It's like, I remember growing up in the 70s, everyone wanted to find out about their roots, where they came from, and all of that. And I think that some of that is missing today, like wanting to know about the past, our ancestors, and respecting and honoring their memory, the hard work, the blood, sweat, and tears that they put in, so that we could have better lives.
Yes.
I do appreciate that. Well, Emily, before you play, any highlights from your life that you would like to share? What is a highlight, something that means a lot that you would like to share with the audience?
Well, just to kind of continue from the point we were just making about our past, one of my brothers, my brother Michael, he is our family genealogist.
Okay.
And he just had us do a bunch of DNA tests.
Oh, wow.
To research our family background, and it's really fascinating. And what he's found is that, and this is pretty much common knowledge, what separates us is only like 5% of our DNAs. Most of our human DNA is like 95% the same, something like that. So we're much more similar than different.
Okay.
And how that plays into highlight of my life, I've been fortunate to have the feeling at home.
That's
and
wonderful.
So coming from this Jamaican background, and as you know, we have a very multi-ethnic, multicultural background, so that makes Jamaicans at home anywhere.
Right.
And you will find a Jamaican everywhere.
True.
I don't care where
We
you
are
go.
everywhere.
Every single place. And so I have felt at home and have a certain camaraderie with the people, because you're almost the same. You may have different cultural languages, but at the end of the day, we're human beings, and so being able to bond like that, I think, has been a highlight for me. And that has enriched my life to be open enough to learn from these people that you meet. So the media tends to portray different nationalities and cultures in a very distorted way.
Yes.
And many times people who have not experienced those cultures firsthand will be influenced by what they've seen or they've seen on television, and it's so sad.
Very.
Because we have so much to learn from our fellow men wherever they are in the world.
Yes.
So wherever you find yourself at a point in time, realizing that there is something for you to learn and maybe also share, but always being willing to learn. And I'm very thankful for the opportunities to learn and the cultures I've been exposed to do that.
That's wonderful. Emily, thank you so much for everything that you shared today. We look forward to your book, and I will definitely be sharing that information as soon as I get it from Emily. I hope that we can do this again. I hope that we can do this again very soon. And what will you be playing for us?
Well, I thought I would do a little combo since we're I'll play a little Irish jig.
Okay.
Actually, maybe it's a Scottish jig, and then some Jamaican folk tune, and bring it home that way. the gate.
Bravo.
Okay.
Bravo, bravo. Emily, thank you so much. And thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us on Your Story, My Story. And my next guest will be Ashley Moulton. Thank you once again, and thank you.